All right, welcome to the CodeX Cantina, where I'm Tipsy Una.
And I'm Superhero Crypto!
You are, between the two of us, you are the most superhero-like, but your name implies so much weakness with like the crypto. Like the, you know what I mean?
Strong.
Like,
I'm strong.
Yeah, but
I'm rock
Krypton,
hard.
Krypton, like whoa. That went a different direction. All right, welcome to the Comic Love Book Tag. This was created by the Lazy Owl, the one and only. She's a wonderful individual. Please check out her channel. We love her stuff. But I used to read comics the day they'd come out, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, in terms of reviews, we'd get them up. And very involved in the Image world and Marvel world. I love both of those comics. So she saw our library tour where I had basically 90% comics, basically, and tagged us on it. Luckily, this is an awesome tag. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, me too. This is going to be fun. I think because we get to talk about some stuff that we've never addressed before, our different love of comic books, which we actually don't know a lot about. Each other's love of comics.
Right.
So.
Even as good as friends as Crypto and I are, we actually don't talk comics very often, which is kind of interesting.
Well, I think it's because you're a Marvel fanboy and I like real comics like DC.
Oh, we're going to go there. Already, we're pulling the pants down and hitting below the belt. Okay. Well, all right, the gloves are off. Let's do this. Now, if you are new to how we do tags, one, we've been drinking a little bit. Let's get that out of the way. Step two is what we traditionally have guessed. Now, with that said, as Crypto just said, we don't really know each other's tastes the best in comics, but we may guess a little bit. But what we do is we alternate back and forth where we alternate the questions that we take. So I'm going to take the odds this round, if you will.
I'll take the evens.
Now, well, that's good because that's the only other option left, buddy. So. All right, number one, what comic book series made you fall in love with comics? And while you may not know, I can actually pull out the issues because I can remember I was a bathtub reader. Like up through high school, I took baths. Never took showers till I went to college.
Not judging you.
Yes, I judge away. I don't care. But the idea was I would sit, and this was like me and wine time, except I was in high school. I didn't drink. It was just me and comic book time, is what it turns out. And I'd even drop comic books in the water, ruined some. But I pulled out two specific comics that I remember reading 10, 20, 30 times. Like I read this over and over and over again. Well, you can't guess the issue. I think you can guess the characters. Can you guess what characters that got me really into comics?
Can I ask questions? Clarifying questions?
You get one yes or no question per comic, and there's two comics, so you get two yes/no questions.
Is the lead character female?
For both of these, the answer is no.
Okay.
You get one more yes/no question.
Are they X-Men comics?
I'm going to say no, but I have to give you additional information. The answer is no, but they feature an X-Men character.
Okay. Is it Wolverine?
Yeah.
Wolverine?
Yep. So I'm going to list two issues here. So you have to remember, this is like Lawn Mower Era Una. I didn't have a job. I was too young to legally work for money. So I took basically money from mowing the lawn, errands, stuff like that. And there's a local convenience store that I'd go to that would sell comics. They literally had the rack that you would spin around, and each Tuesday, Wednesday, you'd go and refresh which comics you would get. And I remember very specifically, one was Wolverine. According to the Marvel database, they do these volumes, which is basically each time a series resets, they call it a new volume, but it's really just a run. But the second run of Wolverine, issue number 50, which was published November 1991, by Larry Hama and Mark Silvestri. And you probably know Mark Silvestri. He's pretty famous. But it's actually worth $55 to $80 today if I had it in mint condition. Dropped it in the water, super wrinkly, worth basically nothing.
Wow, that's heartbreaking.
But I would read that story over and over and over and over again, Wolverine versus the Shiva machine. And the other one that came out about basically the same time, June 1992, was actually called Marvel Comics Presents, which is number 105, which featured Wolverine in a second backup story. If you flipped it over and turned it upside down, was Ghost Rider. But the Wolverine stories was Nightcrawler. I loved Nightcrawler. Yeah. So it was like a Wolverine and Nightcrawler versus all these guys, and I hadn't read the previous issues. Like I just kind of used my lawnmower money to purchase this. I didn't know why they were fighting it, but it was just so sweet the way they were kicking all these bad guys' butts. Read them so many times I can't even explain. But those were the 2 issues specifically that I remember that really got me into comics.
That's cool. Very cool.
All right, number 2, most underappreciated or underhyped comic book.
So for this one, I read these when they came out, and it was a very limited run. And I don't know how to say the last name of the main guy, the artist creator of it, because it's crazy last name. But it's Battle Chasers, and I absolutely love these comics. The main character is a very beautiful. One of the main characters is a very beautiful woman. And if you look at some of the different variants for the covers, you will understand why young Crypto enjoyed those. But I also liked all the magic.
Dude, that was like 90s in their prime. That was Joe Madureira?
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm saying that right, but yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So I absolutely love those comics. They were so unique and different from the normal DC comics I was used to reading with Superman and Batman and Flash and everything. These ones were so stylized, and I loved the hyper vigilant colors, and it was fantasy. And most, comics like with DC are kind of sci-fi. So I like the fantasy element to it because I love reading fantasy books. This is one of the first time I'd see a fantasy comic like that. And I liked that, like, the little girl was kind of like the DPS character with her big, huge fists. And the guy kind of resembles Guts from Berserk. He's not exactly the same, but he's similar. And there's a giant robot, and there's a magician, and I loved it. And then eventually they took it and they made it into a video game. They did a Kickstarter like 5 or 6 years ago. And I actually donated $200 on the Kickstarter, and my name's in the credits. Like, if you beat the game, Battle Chasers, you'll see my real name in the credits there. And I got a signed copy from Joe whatever. And I got the free game, not free game, but I got the copy of the game on my PlayStation. And so I thought, and it's only like 8 issues. There's like 3 variants for each cover, but I absolutely love that run. So I know it's really cool.
It was connected with the Wildstorm universe from Image Comics, I remember, for sure. Yeah.
So,
all right, number 3, most loved LGBTQ diverse comic, which is actually kind of an unfair answer because, unfortunately, I don't have a huge experience, and this question kind of exposes that I do need to delve more into this area. And I have known that for a while, that this has been a neglected area for me that I do want to solve. But I'm always going to answer my brother's husband just because I don't have a ton of options here. Which I think we talked about in the sex and literature tag, I believe it was. I went into heavy detail there. But recently, Angela has recommended Check Please, which I have put on hold at my library. It started as a webcomic and is now started even like a novelization version of it. I would probably check out the novelization version of it, but it's about a high school player who's dealing with his own sexuality as a male teen on a hockey team. Sounded really interesting the way she described it. So Check Please is something that I want to check more out and would be my next step into reading more in this area.
I love the play on words there with the hockey reference for like checking somebody in hockey. That's cool.
Yeah, it seemed really interesting, and she had a glowing review of it. So definitely going to check out more in that area. And questions like these in these book tags people bring up, as some people will say book tags are monotonous, but I think when you do questions like this, you can realize weaknesses in your own repertoire too, right? All right, number 4, most loved comic book hero sidekick.
So here I did my cheat, and because I feel like every sidekick's going to be picked, right? Robin's going to be picked, or who they're all the great sidekicks are going to be picked already, and I felt like that was too cliche. So I went with a really fun one here from a cartoon, though, and you might be able to guess this. He is the funniest sidekick there is from a cartoon.
Is it Bugs Bunny?
No, Bugs Bunny's the main character. Who would he be the sidekick to?
No, I'm saying is the universe Bugs Bunny. You're saying the universe is Looney Tunes.
No. Sorry, no.
Okay, no, I don't know.
That'll do, Una. That'll do.
Charlotte's Web?
No. That'll do, Donkey. That'll do.
Shrek?
Yeah, Donkey is the best sidekick ever. No, but I picked Donkey from Shrek. I love Donkey. He's so funny. I think he's the best sidekick.
All right, number 5, most loved comic book publisher, if you have one. And normally I would have said this felt very Marvel versus DC prone, right? Like you put this in the comic community, you like that. But when you watch Lazy Owl's videos, she's got a lot of breadth into what comic book she chooses. So she's not actually specifically choosing that. Do you know what you would choose for me?
Dark Horse or Image Comics?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's kind of unfair because I mentioned it at the top of the video would be Image just because there's some history there. But I have this quote from Eric Larson. I really like this quote where he's talking about how Image works today. And it says, creators pitch comic books. If accepted, they work out the creative spit on their end and we publish their books. When we get a check from the distributor, we take a small flat fee and the creators split the rest. That's simple. And I just like that about that, how Image was created off of Marvel and DC, to my earlier comment about how this feels very Marvel versus DC, where Marvel and DC own the copyrights to those characters. I liked what Image did with allowing creators to own that, and the distributor is really a distributor. The publisher is really a publisher. They're not owning the content the way that they became these huge companies that they are today. So I really like that, and Image represents that for me.
Who was the guy that started Image? Do you remember? He was the one that got...
Well, there's a group of them, but usually most people think of Todd McFarlane specifically.
Todd McFarlane. He got mad and left and helped start. He was the main, I think, backer of it financially.
There was a large group of comic creators that were disgruntled that they had to give up the rights to their creations, that they couldn't own their creations anymore. But most people think of Todd McFarlane.
Yeah, he was the one I was thinking of.
All right, number 6, most loved screen to print or print to screen adaptation.
I got 2 answers here for you, and you probably wouldn't guess them. One is from one of my favorite actors, because I love comedies, is going to be The Mask.
Oh, Jim Carrey?
Yeah. So that's a comic, and it was made into the movie, and absolutely love the movie. And the comic's good. It's a little bit darker, and they went a more slapstick with the movie, obviously. But another one that is amazing, both, is Snowpiercer. And if you have not checked out the movie Snowpiercer...
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. So that became the comic, or that was a comic originally?
It was a comic originally and made it into the movie. And they actually made a TV show now that's like on TNT or something, but I've heard it's not as good as the movie.
That movie's fantastic. The movie's fantastic.
Yeah, we could analyze that like we do stories because of the way that movie is done with the different trains and the levels of society. And there's so much depth to that movie for being a cool sci-fi movie. It really is a play on the so much more. It's so good.
I struggle with that as a creator because, like, I agree with you. Like, that would be something that we definitely could do. But should we do it? Right? I fear I don't want to. I want to keep movies as just movies and not make them analytical. I think, but
we might not enjoy movies anymore.
It's when do they become analytical, and I don't know if I want to cross that line. But there is a movie like that. It's called Sorry to Bother You. That's about basically slavery. It's about modern day racial inequality. And it's wrapped up in this black comedy that makes it applicable to almost no one. You and I would find the brilliancy in it, while most people just think it's just a fun, silly movie. You and I could bring out, I feel like, a lot of the what intelligence is behind it.
Okay. Who did it? Do you know?
In terms of writing or directing?
Writing it.
Well, I guess that's a dumb question because they were both written and directed by Boots Riley.
Okay.
And it's got a lot of actors that you'd know. That actually should be something you need to check out. Probably, cool. Actually, just be on the scene. All right, number 7, most loved newly published trade paperback comic or graphic novel. And this one was hard for me to answer because I feel like I would pick Saga as like kind of like the new hip thing that everybody's kind of into. Saga. Brian K. Vaughan's kind of like the new hotness. He's released a lot of stuff lately. But I kind of wanted to say, okay, most people I think will choose Saga for like the new hotness. What's something that I think most people won't think of, and that's Nailbiter by Joshua Williamson. And the Nailbiter series ran from 2014 to 2017, and he's only just recently announced the Nailbiter returns.
Cool.
So I'm really interested to check out where that goes, because I actually don't even know how Nailbiter ends. I think I didn't even finish like the last 10 issues or something like that. I was super into it, and then just something happened and I got cut from it. So that's something I want to check out more of.
I've never read it.
Maybe we should do it sometime.
There we
Number
go.
8, most loved POC, which means person of color or BIPOC is a newer term for that. Comic book creator or comic book featuring a POC character.
So I did a few answers here for a couple different reasons. So real quick, I chose Spawn for the actual character. So I love Spawn. I love the movies. I love reading the comics and stuff. So that was my choice there. But the other one was actually a student that did a project in my class. I have kids, when we do World War II, they can pick literally anything they want on World War II, and it lets them personalize what they want to study and what they want to teach the class. So kids that like sports do sports, and kids that like music do music stuff. Had a kid do a whole thing about, cartoon and what Disney was doing, because they loved, animation and stuff. But I had one student that picked the Tuskegee Airmen, and when they were doing their project, they came across these comics, because they were kind of a comic book nerd too, and they came across these new comics that are called the Tuskegee Airs, and it's kind of this like future stylistic steampunk-ish about the ancestors, the heirs to the Tuskegee Airmen that fought, the black airmen that fought in World War II for the United States. And it was absolutely amazing. And it's done by two black men, Greg Burnham and Marcus Williams. And they turned me on to them, and I got a couple of them and read them, and they're really, really good. So pretty cool stuff.
Okay, cool. Now, number 9, what comic book world would you most like to live in? And I wanted to go with a really unique answer for this one too, but there's a very unique universe created called I Hate Fairyland, which is a black comedy by 2015 Scotty Young. And it's a very, very slow release. Very slow. It's still going on, but it's like this young girl that's like almost like toddler-like in terms of size, but is in like old crotchety maturity level of intelligence level, going through this like on the surface very juvenile world, but then once you explore it, you realize how it kind of flips it and is actually very mature. So it's like a juvenile world that has a very mature backing behind it. I'm doing a terrible job of describing it, but it's really unique, and it's kind of zany and crazy. That it's just something that's really, really fun. And I can see it's okay. The best way to describe this is it's Wreck-It Ralph meets Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the best way actually I could describe that. It's a very unique world. I would live there.
Cool.
All right. Number 10. Lastly, tag some booktubers, and we don't have a lot of comic book friends actually, but we do have a couple. So I'm going to say we should tag Jen from Remembered Reads, who has much broader reading experience than us in the comic world. We have Steve from Steve Donahue, who loves DC as far as I know, but I don't know what else he reads from comic books.
And we have to tag him every time, right? Didn't he say we had
you
to?
got to tag him, or he's like, I won't do it. All right, and we have Noah from Everyone Who Reads It Must Converse. He's recently shared some of his comic books, so I'd love to hear what his thoughts were. And then Ramsey from Rajathon, who has shared with me the release Berserk. I know he did that manga or purchased that first one. He's got it featured on his shelf. I'd love to hear what other comic books maybe experience that these individuals have had. Maybe they have more experience than what I'm aware of. I would love to hear what your guys' thoughts are on this tag.
Very cool. Good stuff. Good stuff. I love this tag. Well, it was very unique, so thank you. It's different to kind of change it up every once in a while, Talk about our other passions.
And I think you and I love comics, but we haven't done a lot of comics on this channel. I don't think it's necessarily the most appropriate for this channel. Still figuring that out. But it's still something good for us to talk about every now and then, because that is something that we love.
Yeah.
So,
Very good.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us on the Comic Love Book Tag. Hopefully you guys had some fun. Now, with that said, if you guys are out there, content creators, and love comic books, and we don't know about it, we'd love to hear from you in the comments down below, or we'd love to see you do this tag, because maybe there's, even between me and Crypto, who love, talking about books, we love comics, but we never talk comics to each other. So if you love comics and we don't know it, we'd love to hear from you what your thoughts are on them. So with that said, thank you so much for joining us. Please consider hitting the So with that said, we love...
How many beers?
4 or 5.
Blooper reel.
So with that said, thank you so much for joining us on this video. Please hit the subscribe button if you'd like to. I don't care what you do anymore.
If you'd like to join us on this journey. Peace.